Leave your comments on the Ask Reddit sub, and I'll read your answers on the next episode of LWIAR 2. People no longer bound by their non-disclosure agreements. What can you now disclose? We need someone to manage these financial portfolios. You're a good CPA, so we're hiring you. Thank you. I can't wait to get started. Here's the offsite database we use, and here is the online portal we use to communicate with clients. Freaking what? Quote. Thanks guys. I'm great at Portal. I had no idea it even had an online mode. Quote. Like Git commands. I swear no matter how many times I Google cheat sheets for it, I still end up deleting branches and almost committing tax fraud. Ah yes, the good old git commit tax fraud. Still better than supermarket bakeries. A lot of the baked goods arrive frozen, like the donuts, bagels, cupcakes, regular size cakes. Although it was sheet cake, the cake itself still had to be assembled, at least according to my mom from when she worked at a grocery store in the late 90s. Dunno if they've changed methods, but I doubt it. Can people not tell that supermarket cakes are pre-made in factories? I read a thread, I think it was a confessions thread on AskReddit, where a woman who ran a super successful home bakery business was literally just using Pillsbury cake mix. And this is how I learned what Pillsbury was, as we don't have it in England. She had the odd hack or two and was seriously good at decorating apparently, but she was essentially just using cake mix. She even talked about how she felt like a fraud, got nauseous about going to the grocery store, and hated the sight or taste of cake. People have a preconceived idea of what cake should taste like, and that's because most people use box mixes. Ooh man, I know this. My wife is a baker and cake decorator who goes out of her way to make everything from scratch. That's basically her shtick. Due to reasons, homemade cakes tend to be a bit more dense and less airy than box mixes. This led to a very unfortunate Valentine's promotion she put out, which sold lots of product, but got some terrible reviews back from people who clearly didn't enjoy a non-box mixed cake. To lots of folks, a light and airy cake is nothing more than a delivery mechanism for frosting. There's a local fast food chain in my area with a super popular chocolate cakes. Widely known as that they use mayonnaise. Not widely known as that other than that is 100% Betty Crocker cake mix with Duncan Hines frosting. Portillo. I worked at KFC in high school. You wouldn't believe how many little old ladies would come in to buy a 12-piece bucket of chicken, then ask us to put it directly in their own pan instead of the bucket. My graphic designer best friend won my town's Design the Centennial logo contest. Despite having never set foot in the town, I worked for the radio station, and just did an interview with one of the organizers, where he lamented that there weren't very many entries. So I called my friend and said, "Want in on this?" He said, "Sure," as he lived on the other side of the country at the time. I spent the next day texting him photos of the town for inspiration. Anyway, when he won and they found out he was a professional graphic designer who lived on the other side of the country, they made him and me sign NDAs because the town was afraid people would think they brought in a ringer. Edit. Wow, this kind of blew up. So let me answer some of the more common questions being brought up. 1. What's a ringer? A ringer is a professional who's brought into a contest in order to guarantee favored results. 2. Why did I have to sign the NDA? Well, they unveiled the logo at a great big ceremony where they presented the prize money. I think it was a couple $100, and since my friend lived on their other side of the country, he asked if I could accept on his behalf. I wound up not going, because we were broadcasting from another event that day, so the mayor accepted on his behalf. 3. Where is this? Canada, a small town in Alberta. That's all I'm comfortable sharing. How did they make you? They threatened to withhold the prize and you threatened to tell the public, which would be way worse PR-wise than what they alone wanted the NDA for. Scandal of the century. Presumably if they didn't sign the NDA they wouldn't have picked the design. I was a contractor for NASA. I still fully support the agency, but I was extremely bugged when I learned that each separate NASA center, e.g., JPL, Kennedy, Ames, Goddard, hides many of its inventions and breakthroughs from the other centers so that when HQ is ready to assign a big mission, and a lot of dollars, to one center, they have a better chance to compete over the others. Look what we invented. Ames can't do this over there. Give us the next moon orbiter. The downside is that there is a ton of reinvention and duplicated efforts going on. Sometimes years of work go down the drain when another center does the same thing faster. My perspective was, you all work for NASA. Share knowledge. Collaborate. I was frequently ordered to tone down anything revealing when speaking to other centers. Not just true for NASA. True for many government agencies. The issue is that money is zero-sum. And if one program is getting money, it is getting cut from another program. So everyone is fighting to get their share and avoid having to make staffing cuts. Fixing this would probably require a fundamental change in the executive branch as well as the appropriations process. We would have to move from a leadership system in which you have new political appointees coming in every few years who aren't familiar with the programs to permanent leadership who are focused on making all the different sub-agency departments work synergistically. Appropriations would have to change to have predictable funding levels for each program for several years. I dug up some ancient bones, gold, and Mycenaean tombs. I couldn't discuss the finds until the institution who ran the archaeological dig could publish their data. You can read about it here. Edit to add. I'm a classics student, not the one running the whole dig, but my role in it was very much legal and official lol. We knew to dig there because there was another tomb next to it, and it's located near a big Mycenaean Bronze Age palace. I only dug there for one summer, but it was a blast. If you're interested in archaeology, you should see if there are any local groups that you can volunteer with. Fun fact, if you want to read a NYT article sans paywall, just put a period after the .com portion, for example. www.nytimes.com. A torte is a kind of cake, generally made with Betty Crocker or Duncan Hines cake mixes, rarely made from scratch anymore. A torte settlement is simply a small community of bakers who specialize in making tortes. Try and keep up, please. ETA. Tortoise means something cakeish, from the French in the same etymological fashion as turquoise means something Turkishish. ETAA. Also, according to Statista.com, Betty Crocker has the largest share of the U.S. cake mix market, followed by Duncan Hines, then Pillsbury. Ironically, that site uses cookies, which seems like it could end up skewing the data. A tort is a civil wrong. That is, not a crime but something you can sue over. The most common is negligence. Company was negligent in storing barrels. One rolled through the parking lot and crushed my leg. Therefore I sue. I like to add, your friends and family will all start asking you for money. People will bring up old debts you owe them that you won't remember if they're real or not. Just keep it to yourself or you're going to hate it. This seems to work better than the threat of legal consequences for breaking an NDA. My dad brings up old debt any chance he gets. All through high school up to now. Your sister owes me money for my car they sold. Ask her. Your brother owes me money from when I paid for his college. Ask him. This should be higher up the list. It's scary how incompetent people just guffaw their way into positions of power and really have no idea how to run a business. I mean, to be fair, I'm talking some really big companies here. One of our clients was Coca-Cola, for example. I'm not afraid to mention them as they were one of the few clients that really had their crap together. Their data was usually pretty on point and they were extremely thorough. These big name companies make bank, but many of them had absolutely no clue where that bank was coming from. The key account managers just cared that their totals were good. Individual revenue streams didn't matter as long as in the end, the sum total was fine. You know, NDAs are only good if you have the money to sue. Worked with a company that didn't pay me, so I told them their NDA didn't apply. They threatened to sue. My response: you can't even afford to pay me. You sure as hell can't afford to sue. They also don't extend to keeping you from reporting illegal activity to the justice system. Some places may try to make people believe that and may even try to imply it in the NDA. But it has no legal standing. Doesn't illegal content in legal contracts immediately void the entire contract? Well, this is already public knowledge, and they forgot to have me sign an NDA anyway. But Savannah College of Art and Design's ombudsman Sophia Bagnoli, the independent person who's supposed to represent students in cases of unfair treatment by the school, married one of the school's vice presidents too and is now Sophia Aletto. It's definitely a conflict of interest, but she's still serving as independent ombudsman and currently refusing to help students get any kind of refund now that all their classes are online and they don't have access to the expensive equipment their expensive tuition is supposed to be paying for. Edit. Wow, this blew up. For anyone affected by SCAD, whether it was the abrupt closure of the Hong Kong campus, financial burden, lack of access to facilities, poor e-learning quality, etc., you do still have recourse even if the ombudsman may be working against you. SCAD's accreditation is up for review with SACSCOC this year. SACSCOC will accept written complaints mailed to their office. Link below. Make sure to include documentation, things advertised by admissions, emails, financial statements, etc. That, unfortunately, seems to be the only way to make them improve. sacscop.org. Edit 2. Sorry, I almost forgot. There were a large number of Chinese students who were accepted and given the standard due date for their enrollment fee of a few months, but then, after the outbreak of COVID-19, received another email from your admissions rep demanding payment of the enrollment fee within 3 days. That is not okay. Whether you paid the fee or not, please take the time to file a complaint with SACSCOC and send them that material. Both the acceptance documents and the later email demanding payment in 3 days. When I was fired from Aunties in 2010, I signed a 10-year non-compete (NDA) contract, promising not to detail the baking secrets or work for another pretzel establishment. Well, that ended this year, so now I can run out and start a pretzel store because the secret I was keeping was making pretzels literally requires 2 products. One of them being water and the other a large bag of pretzel meal, dust powder. Quite literally anyone with $2,500 can start a pretzel stand and make perfectly fine pretzels. It's not difficult whatsoever. Edit. I signed the letter when I was hired, but I got a copy with my termination letter. Traditional Bavarian pretzels are dipped in a 10-to-1 water and lime mixture to aid browning. If you bake baking soda for about an hour at 250 degrees F, it works almost as good. I got brave and ordered some food-grade lye for my bagels and pretzels. I was brave enough to order it, but I have not found the courage to use it. Edit. Brave, not brace. You claimed to have baked these homemade pretzels in a simple baking soda solution to make them golden brown. Test results show it was a lie. I think I'm finally ready to let the world know my secret. If you've ever used VeriSite, the loading spinners you see when the report loads aren't waiting for anything. People kept complaining that reports were coming back too fast, so it must not be working right. It doesn't take long to complete a few hundred Google searches simultaneously. So the loading spinner just makes you wait a few seconds longer so it feels like more is happening. So glad to finally get that off my chest. Bonus fact. Edit. I also added applying phlebotinum, reticulating splines, and looking for cat memes as random loading messages, but they wouldn't let me do harassing at Ted Cruz on Twitter. This is a good one. Now we just need an elevator engineer to admit that the close door button doesn't actually do anything. This reminded me of adding an egg to instant blank pancakes, cakes, brownies, etc. Not actually necessary. When Betty Crocker's instant baked goods brand first went on a market, her sales were poor. The team surveyed people and they were suspicious of baking from a powder. Adding the egg makes people feel that they're actually contributing to a baking process. Edit. Which weighs up thinks I'm missing a detail. And they seem to be right. The originally introduced cake mix did not need egg, or water for that matter. It was then revised to now require water and egg, or you can still make it without and it will be edible, but not for the best final product. Actually kind of better fits OP's example. A step was added to make a process less convenient but somehow reassure the user. Here's a Psychology Today article with more detail. I worked at a small bakery in New York City when I was younger. Every morning the bakery would take their day-old cupcakes and deliver them to a tour company that did Sex and the City tours. The tour company would pass our cupcakes off as cupcakes from Magnolia, and significantly much more popular bakery. Is that why Shush is an ex-wife? 1,000 screaming horsemen raided that bakery. The owner of the company is an absolute psycho. They have been trying to hire developers for years now, and despite paying really well, they can't keep them. I quit after 3 days. I was trying to help out on a high-priority bug on my 3rd day. When I said, all the requests to X endpoint are failing, to which he replied, I see 1 out of approximately 500 requests succeeding. Does that sound like all to you? Quote. He then called a company-wide all-hands meeting, and proceeded to tell everyone how important it is that we all speak carefully, and that we don't need freaking retards like me lying to the company, making it harder to diagnose issues. I told him to go frick himself and quit on the spot. Turns out the company has a big history of this. My boss, who had been there for 2 weeks, had tried to quit the week prior, but was convinced to stay on to meet me. He left a few days after me. Apparently a few people got together and tried to tell the owner that he needs to watch how he talks to people, and he blew up on them about it too. I later heard that I was something like the 10th person to quit within their first month in a row. The sad truth is that the dude actually seems pretty smart, but has been acting like a megalomaniac while he pisses his money away and abuses his employees that are for whatever reason unwilling to leave. This is juicy. I like this one. I think the idea was to get people to at least give the company a shot. IRC for a while they weren't even able to get people to interview, as everyone would look up their name of the company and see tons of comments about the owner and how much of an butthole he is. So they decided to offer a quitting bonus as a kind of money-back guarantee kind of thing. I remember the copy being something like, if company isn't a good fit, we will give you a few thousand to help hold you over until you find a new job that is. Honestly, it worked on me. The only reason I even gave it a chance was because of that fallback. But the owner forgot to keep part of that plan. Don't be AC word. Any more details you can dish out about this? I remember when this all came to a head. Like back then, the build of the game I saw wasn't even a game. Everything was in PDF and in the planning stage of development. So I can confirm that its star cards, and the whole BS progression system was planned for day one. Also, Finn and Phasma were fully developed and playable as early as June 2017. Having signed NDAs and held security clearances, I can say that the information that was actually protected for me ended up being very boring for normal people, but very important to competitors who are hoping for that slight edge. Pro tip: 99% of the other people there are in the same boat. Start talking loudly on the phone, or in a stage whisper with a colleague after overtly double-checking, hey, you signed the NDA, right? And you can at least make everyone else feel special. Well, the data screw-up was just another packaged library issue. They've reverted it now, but you can't roll back whatever's in the wind already. So did the NSA say anything about the strange numbers you were seeing? What do you mean? Plead the fifth. Sure, it runs faster now, but aren't you a little worried about the radiation? Quote. The last one is great. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You use the yellow shampoo. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You use the blue body wash. You stay in Wonderland and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. As someone learning to make soap, it's hilarious that in the industry, recipes are protected as trade secrets, but there's literally only so many ways you can make soap. Tears of joy. Have you tried using human fat, like from a liposuction clinic? Thanks for watching LWIAR 2, the best of all time r/AskReddit submissions and comments. If you like this video, check out the original LWIAR channel, and don't forget to like and subscribe.